everyone. My name is Mademoiselle Lena. Shishi and Mambo Tanya were kind enough to let me go live on their page as well. Today is April the 14th, 2021, and we are here for our weekly virtual book club. We are currently reading Enchantment of the Faerie Realm by Ted Andrews. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and, actually, I did want to say, I believe there are 3 exercises in this chapter, so if you want to grab some pen and paper, write it down, that would be awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and get started.
Four, Nature Spirits of the Earth. Nature spirits of the earth include beings other than just the elementals. It includes tree and wood elves, flower and field fairies, dwarves who inhabit rocks and caves and mounds, and all of those of the fairy realm who live close to the earth. It includes the leprechauns of Ireland, the brownies of England, the kobold of Germany, and the Nisa of Scandinavia. Most of them are defined by their activities with the earth. Of all the earth spirits, probably the dwarfs inspire more tales than any. They are of an ancient race, and they are often considered as old as the rocks they inhabit. The primeval dwarfs were the smiths to the gods, as was reported in the written Icelandic accounts, called the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda. Though often humble and reserved, they are known to champion virtue. Many stories provided contradictory views of them. They could be potent and pathetic, both at the same time. They could be seen as starving, cold, and weary, and yet still possess great power. In spite of the contradictions, there are qualities that are universally attributed to them. 1, they have a stunted nature. 2, they have a strong kinship with the earth. 3, they are often reclusive. 4, there are no women among them. Because of this, they often sculpted progeny from metal and stone, and often they fell in love with mortal women. 5, they have a great understanding of the primal forces of the earth. 6, they are often master craftsmen. 7, they are masters of incantation. 8, they hoard great treasures. 9, they often provide mortals with assistance and gifts, both of which are usually touched with magic. 10, they are the masters of the mundane elements. The dwarfs often took on the customs and appearances of their locale. They were the masters of all the elements, and the lowliest of creations upon the earth are part of dwarf magic. From the coloring of a simple flower to the creation of great caverns, the dwarfs were overseers of much of the natural world. At one time, there was great intimacy between dwarfs and humans. The rules of this intimacy were always simple and always understood. Goodness wrought goodness. Cruelty wrought cruelty. Unfortunately, as humans became more civilized and Christianized, the mockery of the dwarfs began. This mockery drove them from human contact. Where once they were a unified people, they began to divide and separate. As human mockery increased, some retreated entirely into the earth, wary of any human contact. Many of these maintain their tribal unity and former majesty, which are still strong today. Others stayed close to humans, remaining loyal to certain mortal individuals. Some began to sell their services and began to fight among themselves. This contributed to classifying some of them as dark elves, light elves, and even dusky elves. The dark elves are actually the dwarfs who retreated deep into the earth. Their skin often reflects the earth's colors. In general, they refrain from human contact, but occasionally they do take up residence in the homes of humans. As mentioned earlier, their energy is strong, and many people have felt their presence at times in their homes. I related earlier a personal story of how my brothers and I acted when we had to retrieve laundry from the basement. The bottom part of the staircase had open steps. Behind them was a small, recessed area that you could crawl into if you desired. I used to see eyes peering out from that area through those open steps on occasion. When entering the basement, my brothers and I usually jumped from the landing to the basement floor, bypassing those open steps. And on our return, we would try and take that section of stairs 3 to 4 steps at a time, not wanting to linger at all. Although I didn't know it then, I now know that no harm would have come to us in any way. These dark elves rarely display goodwill toward humans, primarily because of what they have suffered at the hands of humans, but they will not harm us. Their energy is intense and easily felt, though, and it can be very disconcerting. It can also assist in stimulating one's own inspiration and creativity. That same dark elf from childhood still occasionally shows up, in spite of several moves. It now spends extended time in the attic, which is connected to the room where I do all of my writing. There are still master craftsmen dwarfs, and many of them have retained much of their former skills and majesty. They even have the ability to control the weather if they choose. Those who are known as dusky elves and dwarves are the most numerous. Whether this is because it is actually so, or because they are seen more often, is not really known. These individuals take the traditional form and appearance, as depicted in many books on gnomes. They are linked to their environment, and thus rarely travel far from their home tree, herb, brook, or mound. They are as varied in their size and appearance as they are in their tasks. Those known as the light elves and dwarfs are not traditional at all. In fact, from my own experience, they are not truly part of that same ancient race of dwarfs. They actually fall into a slightly different category, which will be covered in Chapter 11 when we discuss fairy godmothers and patrons. There are, along with dwarfs, many kinds of fairies and elves working with the earth and its various elements, most of whom we encounter working in assisting things to grow. Most still hide themselves from humans, and they will often take the shape of butterflies and birds to do so. In areas where mounds can be found, care should be taken not to disturb them, as the earth spirits living there control and direct the general fertility of the surrounding land. These beings live inside mounds with all the characteristics of traditional village life. Learning to attune to them can help you in growing your own crops and plants. Some people equate the mound folk with trolls. A troll is simply a generic term for a Scandinavian elf, and should not be confused with the ugly creatures hanging under bridges and such, as depicted in the tale, The Three Billy Goats Gruff. They are often tall and thin, and have great age and skill. They do prefer underground homes, and a true troll is a master smith and a clever mechanic. Those trolls that retreated as humans pushed forward still maintain the old skills. Some of them, angry at what they were put through by humans, became troublesome. Some of these trolls still stay close to human environments to evoke fear and create problems. Usually mechanical problems with such things as cars and appliances in the home. They can occasionally be seen hanging from metal gratings and the underside of highway overpasses. Pets have a strong sense of their presence, and they will avoid walking over sewer grates and such if a troll is near. Sometimes, the fertility of the land falls under the domain of field fairies and elves who are its guardians. They resent not being asked when humans want to make changes in an environment, and in their anger, may exact some tough lessons on the humans involved. The home in which I now live had been left untended for over a year before it was purchased. The trees, shrubs, and grasses were wild in the backyard. Without thinking, I went in and started cutting everything out. The shrubs ended up being extremely difficult to cut down, and they shouldn't have been. I wasn't paying attention to the signals. Since then, it has been a great struggle to make anything grow in that area. Later, I discovered the reason. I had cut down the homes of many nature spirits, displacing them without their permission. I have had to learn the lesson of how difficult it is and how much energy it takes for nature spirits to make anything grow. It has been difficult rebuilding the trust in the past years. The nature spirits have returned, though, and they are even making themselves more known. But it has been an 8-year process. Now, before I do any cutting or trimming, I ask their permission and give them advance warning. Part of the earth spirit realm are the flower fairies. These are always present in areas where there are flowers, wild or domestic. These are the Tinkerbell kinds of beings, and they are always drawn to children, especially those playing outside. These will be explored more closely in Chapter 8. Rock and stone spirits are also common, more so than is often imagined. Every stone or crystal has its own fairy or elf. Most rock spirits have a grand antiquity about them. Great stone devas and angels can be found in major rock formations. These beings hold the keys to prophecy and magic. Trees not only have their own individual spirit, they also serve as homes to whole communities of fairies, elves, and dwarfs. Different fairies and elves attach themselves to different trees. Elves are often born directly into a tree and will take on the energies and characteristics of that particular tree. Tree spirits, usually very affectionate toward humans, will be explored in depth in Chapter 9, along with the various communities of fairies and elves, living in and working with the trees. Those beings and spirits of the earth, no matter where they manifest, are crucial to the evolution of humanity. They maintain the earth and everything upon it so that we have a place to grow and evolve. They are here to assist us in our initiation into the earth element. Anything of the earth implies form, shape, weight, and a material substance. The initiation of the earth involves learning how to free ourselves from those limitations. It implies learning all that we can about control of both our physical and our finer bodies of energy, both visible and invisible matter. Part of what the fairies and elves of the earth element can teach us is that matter is not lifeless. They can teach us to be practical builders in life. They can teach us how to make things grow properly and in balance. They can teach us about our feminine aspects and how we are connected to the earth through the things growing upon and within it, just as a child developing in the womb is connected to its mother through an umbilical cord. The fairies and elves of the earth element can teach us to place people before things. The nature spirits of the earth teach us practicality and caution. They can teach us the proper expression of ambition and how a proper form of it can be a dynamic force in the universe. There are many benefits to learning to connect with the fairies and elves of the element of earth. 1. We develop greater circumspection. 2. We awaken determination to succeed, along with various means to do so. 3. They help open opportunities for success. 4. They help us to balance greed and manipulation. 5. They can help us to overcome coarse and base expressions of life. 6. They assist us in our timing, helping to bring us back within nature's rhythms, where everything can work more easily. 7. They can reveal the treasures of the earth. 8. They can restore a joy in the experience of mundane activities. 9. They hold knowledge of using the earth's resources to cure diseases and to instill prosperity. 10. They awaken a renewed reverence for all expressions of life. 11. They can teach us how to control and use the earth's forces. 12. They can help us in tapping and using the forces inherent in the human body. 13. They hold the keys to magic. 14. They stimulate artistic energies and craftsmanship. 15. They can teach us to overcome the influences of time. Exercise 1. Understanding the earth element through myths. Many of the ancient myths, legends, and tales hold within them the keys to understanding the mysteries of the universe and the roles of those in the Faerie Realm in guarding those mysteries. Ancient mysteries were often veiled in tales to provide, for those willing to explore them, opportunities to discover them. The images and characters, although generally treated as fictional, often had a basis in reality. Specific mythic characters can be used to understand the Faerie Realm, especially in relationship to the different elements. In their adventures, mythic heroes often encountered beings and creatures that can be thought of as part of this magical realm. For example, the sirens encountered by Odysseus had the same enchanting power many water and wood nymphs had over humans in traditional fairy tales. Many gods and goddesses of the earth have demonstrated characteristics and behaviors similar to beings of the Faerie Realm. An examination of them will provide clues to understanding the forces we are open to by touching this realm. Simply reading about them is a way of opening your perceptions and making yourself more receptive to the more ethereal realms. Some of the more common gods and goddesses associated with the element of earth are Pluto or Hades, Greco-Roman, god of the underworld; Pan, Greek, god of nature; Graces, Greek, three sister goddesses who dispense charm and beauty; Muses, Greek, 9 daughters of Mnemosyne and Zeus, who each preside over a different art or science; Nu Qua, Chinese, goddess of creation; Demeter or Ceres, Greco-Roman, goddess of growth and agriculture; Dionysus or Bacchus, Greco-Roman, god of wine; Ceridwen, Celtic, goddess of enchantment; Geb, Egyptian, god of the earth; Gaia, Greek, goddess of the earth; Rhea, Greek, great mountain mother; Mawu, African, goddess of creation; Changing woman, Apache, goddess of the earth. Exercise 2. Attuning to earth spirits through fairy tales. There are a variety of folk and fairy tales that provide great insight into the character and personality of the many kinds of nature spirits, fairies, and elves that are associated with the element of earth. These stories can provide clues as to how to approach and work with them. Reading what has been written about them in a story, song, and poetry is a means of letting them know you are interested. It opens the doors to allow them to enter more easily. One of the most dynamic ways of opening to the nature spirits of the earth is by using the tales as a form of meditation. This may seem like a form of fanciful daydreaming, but when applied in the appropriate manner, it becomes a force that opens doors to this realm. We are simply using the tales as a means for developing a relationship with the fairies, elves, and beings of the earth realm. We are building bridges between the outer world of humans and the inner world of fairies. The following folk and fairy tales are effective to use in meditation to open contact with those elves, fairies, and nature spirits associated with the element of earth. The Fall of the Earth Giants, Mexican. The Tale of Demeter and Persephone, Greek. The Separation of Earth and Sky, Maori. Tales of Ali Baba, Arabian. The Three Languages, German. Snake Magic, Swahili. The Man Who Learned the Languages of Animals, Ghanaian. Rumpelstiltskin, German. Lubdan, King of Leprechauns, Irish. Snow White and Rose Red, German. A Tale of Tauntlewold, Swedish. The Necklace of Brissings, Scandinavian. Rip Van Winkle, United States. Loki and the Treasures of the Gods, Norwegian. The Tale of Thomas the Rhymer and the Fairy Queen, British. Rubazal Tales, German. The Tale of Orfeo and the Elf Lord, Greek. Tale of Tam Lin, British. British Tales of Robin Goodfellow, British. A Midsummer Night's Dream, British. The process for using these or any other tales to open to the Faerie Realm is simple. 1. This exercise is most effective when performed outside, around things of the earth, rocks, trees, grass, etc. As mentioned in the previous chapter, a place where you can put your feet in the mud or feel the earth in some way with your hands or feet will make this exercise even more effective. 2. Find a time when you will be undisturbed and reread the story to familiarize yourself with it. 3. Now close your eyes and relax. Feel yourself connected to the earth. Place your hands on the ground and feel the earth. Notice the texture, the depth, the strength. Imagine you can feel a slow, deep pulse rising from the heart of the planet. As you do this, know you are grounded and protected. 4. With your eyes closed, visualize in your mind that you are standing within a circle of ancient oak trees. Their massive branches and trunks dwarf you. Their bark is twisted and gnarled, like the skin of some ancient, giant entity. The upper portions of the roots are exposed, but you know they must extend down into the heart of the earth itself. As you stand beneath them, looking up, they seem to extend forever. You are amazed that trees could be this large. It is as if they form a wall against everything in the outside world. It is as if this inner circle is a point of separation. As you look about you at the giant trees, you are filled with wonder. If ever trees could house gnomes and elves, these surely could. As you turn slowly around, taking in the sight of the trees, you notice a soft mist forming on the ground. You watch, smiling. It is as if it almost tickles as it forms. Soon, the grass is hidden from view, along with the base of those mighty oaks. In a few short moments, the mist closes around you. You are surprised. It seems to have a sweet fragrance, and it leaves a taste of honey upon the lips. You stand still, watching it swirl around you, and then it begins to descend. As it breaks and dissipates, you find that the scenery has changed. You are no longer in that glen, in the midst of that circle of oak trees. 5. At this point, you must visualize yourself as the main character in the fairy tale you have chosen. See yourself stepping into the storyline and going through all of the activities within the story. Imagine yourself interacting with the people, the fairies, elves, and other beings that may be in it. 6. You have entered into the tale itself. You do not have to hold strictly to the storyline. Allow for your own creative input. Adjust the storyline if it feels right to do so. Use your creative imagination. There is no right or wrong adjustment. If you do not wish to change the storyline in any way, then don't. It is important that you be comfortable in this visualization. 7. At the end of the story, visualize the mist rising up and surrounding you again. Then, as it dissipates, see yourself back within that glen amidst the circle of trees. Understand that this is a shadowland, a place where the human world and the fairy realm intersect. Know that each time you encounter such intersections, even if only in a meditation, you will strengthen the bridge between you and the fairy realm. 8. Take a slow, deep breath and allow the scene to fade before you. The trees disappear, and you feel yourself sitting on that spot in nature where you first began your meditation. Still keeping your eyes closed, feel the earth again with your hands. Can you feel its pulse now? Does it feel any different than before? Do you notice any fragrances that were not apparent before? 9. Now slowly open your eyes and gaze softly about you. Are there moving shadows? Any glowing spots upon or close to the ground? If there are bushes or trees nearby, can you see any faces within them? Don't worry that you may be imagining it. Remember, imaginary is not synonymous with unreal. We could not imagine something unless there were some basis for it on some level of reality. Give thanks to the element of earth and those beings working with it for sharing with you. Remember, courtesy operates in all dimensions. Exercise 3. Meeting the King of the Gnomes. 1. Begin this meditation by finding a time and a place in which you will not be disturbed. This meditation is most effective when performed outdoors around things of the earth, grass, rocks, trees. A place where you can plant your feet in the mud or be able to feel the grass with your hands is most effective. 2. Close your eyes and take several deep breaths. You may wish to feel and smell the earth around you to help put you into deeper touch with it. 3. Begin a slow, progressive relaxation. Start at the top of your head and begin directing warm, soothing energy to each part of your body, all the way down to your feet. Take your time with this. The more relaxed you are, the greater the effects of the meditation. 4. Now place your hands on the earth itself. Keep your eyes closed through this. Notice how it feels, its temperature, its texture, its solidness. Imagine that you can feel a slow, deep pulse rising up from the heart of the earth itself. Feel yourself connected solidly to the earth and to that inner pulse. 5. Breathe deeply and just relax, allowing the following images to form in your mind. You see yourself standing in the midst of a circle of ancient oak trees. Their massive branches and trunks dwarf you. Their bark is twisted and gnarled, like the skin of some ancient, giant entity. The upper portions of the roots are exposed, but you know they must extend down into the heart of the earth itself. As you stand beneath them, looking up, they seem to extend forever. You are amazed that trees could be this large. It is as if they form a wall against everything in the outside world. It is as if this inner circle is a point of separation. As you look about you at the giant trees, you are filled with wonder. If ever trees could house gnomes and elves, these surely could. The trees are so large that only diffused light enters into their midst. You don't know whether it is day or night. It could be either. In this glen, there seems to be a perpetual in-between time. It is neither dusk nor dawn, and it never changes. It is then that you notice a soft mist rising from the ground. It almost tickles as it forms, and soon the grass and your feet are lost in it. You turn around slowly within this circle, observing the shifting mist as it cloaks the base of the trees. As you come back around, through the mist, you see a face and figure form within the nearest tree. Somehow, you know that this must be Gob, the king of the element of earth. You whisper his name, and the mist responds by shifting and dancing, and the figure becomes more clearly defined within the tree. A second time, you speak the name, this time a little louder and with more confidence. The mist swirls around the base of that tree, and you begin to see the figure move. Yet a third time, you use the name. You send it out strong and clear, and as you do, the mist parts, and Gob steps out from the tree itself. He is almost as tall as the average human, and he is dressed like the traditional gnome of folklore. He wears the colors of the earth, greens and browns, and upon his head is a cap. His hair and beard are long, and his features are dark and worn. His face is lined and set, and his eyes study you intensely. He is not sure he should have answered your call. He notices your uncertainty, and his eyes twinkle, softening his stare, but only for an instant. Then his serious manner returns. He motions for you to sit. He assumes a position across from you. He extends his hand down, and it passes into the earth, as if it were merely water. When he withdraws it, he has a handful of soil. Every grain of sand and soil is like one of the millions of cells that make up your own body. All of the minerals found within the earth are also found within you. Thus, you are connected to it, and it is connected to you. Anything that happens to it will return to you. He closes his hand around the soil, and as he opens it, you see he has transformed it into a perfect diamond. It shimmers and shines, drawing your eyes to it. He holds it up before you, and as you gaze upon it, images begin to appear and disappear, a moving collage of the abuses of humans upon the earth. You see land stripped and left bare, eroding from too much mining and greed. You see farmland with soils depleted of minerals through chemicals and overuse. You see rare and precious plants and animals destroyed, with little or no thought of long-range repercussions for humanity. Then you see foodstuffs artificially fortified because natural minerals are rare. You see the greater population anemic and starving. You see images of people dying because the plants that could have healed them are extinct. Your body aches in response to these images. Then Gob closes his hand upon the diamond and then reopens it, revealing the loose sand and soil. Again, he closes his fist upon it, and as he opens it, there lies in his palm an exquisite emerald, rich, warm, and glowing. It radiates around you, and in your mind, you begin to see new images. You see the life entities of every flower and plant. You see humans working and walking with these entities. You see flower fairies and tree elves. You see water spirits and forest devas. You see humans reverencing life in all its forms. You see those abused lands being restored. You see land that is rich and fertile, and you see humans living in balance with it. And you notice that the aches you felt before have disappeared. You are connected to the earth, just as everything upon the earth is connected to you. What happens to one happens to the other. Because we are all part of a greater whole, what happens to any one aspect happens to all. This is felt as stress and tension that is often ignored, but it is real. As one person learns to work with the natural world more fully and joyfully, this then influences the whole as well. As you open to those of my kingdom, you clear the way and facilitate others doing so as well. As you develop relationships with those you call the elves and fairies, Others will feel the effects. It will be subtle at first, and it may even be ignored, just as the personal effects of the Earth's abuse are often ignored. You will not have to convince them, for as you open to this realm, on some level of the subconscious, those around you will also know. Gob stands and motions for you to do likewise. He closes his fist around the emerald, and with his free hand he takes yours and holds it, palm up. He then opens his fist and drops into your palm a perfectly formed crystal ball. As you look at it, you see that it has the markings of the planet Earth. This is a sign of my promise to work with you and to help open the Earth and all of its mysteries to you. Do not be fooled by it, though, for it carries great responsibility. If you accept it, it is your promise to do your part as well. If you are not yet ready or are not sure, simply leave it upon the ground at your feet when you leave. There it shall remain until you are ready. Gob steps back toward the tree out of which he emerged. The mist begins to rise up. It swirls softly and gently. He nods, and for a moment you even see a gentle smile, and then he is simply a form within the tree. This then fades, until you are standing in the circle of oaks, holding the crystal planet. You think about the responsibility and all that you can do, and you make your decision. As you do, the image of the glen within this ancient circle of oaks begins to fade, and you find yourself back where you started, at the beginning of your meditation. Excerpt from my personal journal. There is an area behind my home that has grown wild with trees and weeds. It has been very important to my home and its balance, as it serves to separate and block the view of an apartment complex that would otherwise look down into my backyard. As I began this chapter after my morning meditation, I heard the sound of large machinery. I looked out my back window and saw a power shovel beginning to rip up the earth and all that grew in that area that separated me from the apartments. With each gouging of the earth, I could hear soft cries and anger coming from those beings who lived within and beneath the trees. When I went out to investigate, I was informed that the city had ordered the owners to clear it all out. The owners, although nice, were very casual about the whole thing. To them, it was going to be a simple task of gutting and then replanting with shrub growth. I returned home and went into meditation for those earth beings living in that area. I opened an invitation for them to come into my yard if necessary. I came out of my meditation with a distinct feeling that things were going to be unusual over the next few days. As I watched the events unfold, while I compiled and worked on this chapter, the owners of the apartments had more and more difficulty clearing out the area. The power shovel would stop working. They had to dig with their own hands more than they expected, and there were little interruptions off and on over the next few days. The weather became scorching and humid, and the dust just hung in the air around them as they worked. I thought that all this was interesting, but I was not going to attach any more significance to it than necessary at this point. I was in for a surprise as I began to work on the next chapter. Continued at the end of chapter 5.
Okay, so that was the end of that chapter. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, next week we're going to do chapter 5, which is about water sprites, spirits, and nymphs. So, what did you guys think about this week's chapter? Did y'all learn anything from the meditation, or what were your thoughts and feelings? Hi, Chelsea. Mambo Tanya is not with us today. She was kind enough to let me go live on her page for the virtual book club, but she is otherwise occupied at the moment. But hello, you're welcome nonetheless. And I also thought oh yes, the meditations are great. I caught myself actually kind of putting myself in there. It was kind of like I was in a daze while I was reading, the words right along. But it kind of put me in a daze where I was like in both worlds at the same time. Do you know what I mean? This is an amazing book. It really is. That's okay, Alice. I did put the link for the YouTube video. So if you would like, you can go back and click on that link and rewatch it. I feel like it'll be very beneficial. I also have a playlist that, starts at the very beginning. And so if you want to, you can go back and go through. I believe this is session 4. So there's 3 other videos plus this one. Oh, you were right there, Denisha? Yeah. It's kind of like I was reading it, but I wasn't really here. I was kind of off in the circle of oaks with the little gnome. And let me tell you, that emerald was beautiful. Yes, I am looking forward to the rest of the book as well because I'll be honest, I'm reading it along with you guys so that, because I don't want to like give a reaction that's not like, and I want you to know the real reaction when it happens. Because I have a lot of wow moments in this book. And I even, that last part where it was an excerpt out of his journal, my heart almost broke. I felt so sad, because I could see those fairies being so pissed off that someone was just coming in and wrecking their home. And it was heartbreaking. And, I felt like that even though he had an open invitation for them to come and live in his yard, that some of those fairies weren't able to get out on time, and that really broke my heart. But that could just be me, You may have had a different experience when you were listening to that little story. All right, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and go. Be sure to mark your calendars for next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we'll come back and do the next chapter. All right. Love you guys bunches. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.